Hi everyone, how you doing today? We are the Real Estate Ladies of North Atlanta, and we are going to be talking about what, Sue, today?
We're going to be talking about listing your home for the correct price because, as we all know, getting the most amount of money in the least amount of time is everybody's goal, and overpricing it can be a real, really
Problem.
bad thing. Yeah,
Could be a
problem.
problem. So I'm Mary
Yeah.
Ellen Benaken, and Sue Jennings is with me, and we're going to be talking about pricing your house correctly.
hmm
So what questions we got, Sue? What's going on?
Well, the things that we're going to be covering today are comparative market analysis, current market trends, assessing the property condition, accounting for unique features in properties, considering the buyer's perspective, adjusting for market conditions and shifts in the market, as we know that happens frequently, consulting with the seller, and also monitoring feedback and market activity.
Oh, great. All right, so let's start with
Comparative market
conducting.
analysis.
Yes, a comparable market
Yeah.
analysis. Okay,
Right.
so do we look at Zillow?
No, no,
So how do we
we
do a
don't.
comparable market analysis?
Well, basically, what we do is we start with the subject property and we look at similar homes or what they call comparables to that property. We look in particular to homes that were recently sold, and we consider location, the size of the home, the condition of the home, the age of the home, and other features of the home. And then we make adjustments accordingly.
Okay, so like if we're in like a subdivision where there's multiple houses that have the same floor plan, those are comparable properties that we're looking at, correct? And
They
then we're
are.
adjusting.
Right. And we do consider somewhat, the current homes that are on the market in that community as well, but we predominantly want to see what the homes sold for, how long they were on the market, and what the sale original list price to sales price ended up being for those properties.
Yeah, that's really important. I think a lot of people don't realize. They're like, well, we'll just list it higher and we'll reduce it. No, we don't want to do that. We want to list
No.
it correctly first. And then if there's multiple people that are interested in your property at that price, then we might have multiple offers. In some
Right.
markets, we're going to have multiple offers and others we're not. So we want to price it right correctly the first time. So we're not doing price adjustments because we don't want to do
Right.
that.
Right. It's actually been statistically proven that people that priced the home too high actually ended up with less money at the closing table than the people that priced it correct, right out of the gate, right in the beginning.
Right, because the whole idea is to really sell that property in the least amount of time for the most amount of money, right? That's what everybody wants, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So we do a comparable market analysis and we take a lot of different search before we see the house. So we are
Right.
looking at those comparables, looking at photos, looking at different features that they have. Is it updated, not updated? What have they added? So we're putting mental notes in our in our brain. And then when we go to the house, we're also taking notes on, well, what do they have compared to this house and that house? And that's kind of how we get things together, coming up with the
Right.
prices.
Right. And we do look at updates and take the quality of those updates and the condition of the home very, very seriously. We look at the condition of the floors. We look at whether the kitchens and baths have been updated. We, just look at whether the home is dark or dated or whether it's light, bright, airy, fresh, clean. And this is where, staging and so forth becomes very important too.
Okay, that's good information, because I think that people just think that you come up with a price like what Zillow says or what the neighbor says or whatever. But honestly, you have to get a lot of data together in order to come up with a number. So yeah, so
Right.
that's
Right.
good.
Right. And we
And
also do look at market trends and what's currently going on in the area as to whether, it's an area with job growth or an area that perhaps is declining a bit. And we take all of that into consideration when we, price the property. We look at all these factors because they do impact a property's value. And we also look at supply and demand and what type of market we're in. Are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? Or are we in a balanced market? You know, what are the number of months of supply that we're up against? And, you know, what are any other economic indicators or seasonal fluctuations that we might anticipate? So we try to stay informed on all the local and market dynamics, and we try to accurately assess a property's worth. With high-end luxury properties, we might even have an appraiser come in and do a pre-listing appraisal on a property, just to confirm a number that we may or may not be considering for that property.
Well, you know, putting a market analysis together, comparable market analysis, it's kind of like, you know, being an appraiser. So I kind of feel like we, you know, we have a couple hats in, you know, being an appraiser, just looking at things. And what we're looking for too is we're not looking for a house that sold last year. We're trying to find 3 to 4 comparable properties that are the most comparable that have sold in the last 6 months. And if we have to go outside a subdivision, we will look for those comparable properties as well.
Right. We generally do not go beyond 3 miles from a subject property unless it's a unique property.
Yeah, no, that's great information, because I feel like people don't understand really how much does go into a price or a range of what a house is going to sell for. And market trends, you know, the market changes every week. So we also have to be on top of it, finding out new things that come on the market that have sold. So there's always lots of research to be done.
Right. There's a lot more that goes into this than what most people realize. Most people just think you pull up your phone, you look at what Zillow says your home is worth. Well, let me tell you something. Zillow's never been inside your house. So they don't know the quality of your upgrades. They don't know that your neighbor had an old kitchen and you have a brand new kitchen. You know, and there are real pluses and minuses to, you know, digging deep and really understanding the numbers.
Yeah, no, that's great information. So then we assess the property condition, which is, you know, the same thing. We're looking at how old are the bathrooms, how old are the kitchen, you know, how is, you know, what kind of condition, how has the house been upkept? Because like everything looks nice and pretty inside, but what about the AC units and the roof and, you know, all those type of features? You know, we need to know what they are. Whoops, you lost me for a second. I'm sorry. Woo, I fell back. So anyway, you know, you have to look at all those other, you know, things that are important of a house, the upkeep outside, because sometimes people don't take that into consideration.
Right. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is that, you know, people always want the most amount of money for their home, which is what we want for them as well. However, they see their home through rose-colored glasses often, and they're not seeing it realistically. That, you know, maybe they are thinking the house is worth more than it actually is. And, you know, that can be a struggle because they've lived there for 20 years. They haven't done anything to it, but their house is the best house on the block. And that very well may be, but we do consider, you know, age, condition, upgrades, the quality of the maintenance, and, you know, did they put lipstick on a pig or did they really do something, you know, that was an upgrade to this property?
You know, and I've had some heart-to-heart conversations with people where I've gone to their house and they want a list. And I said, you know what, if you do this, this, and this, you're going to get so much more money, you know, for your house. So instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to take the listing and we're going to put it on the market, I will say, hey, let's go and spend this amount of money on repairs and you will, or updates, and you will be able to get this much more for your property. So I think that you have to have someone who's trusted to really not sugarcoat anything and just tell you like it is of what really needs to be done. If you really want top dollar and you're willing to put in the extra time and money to do that.
Right. I think one of our best and most successful stories was a home a couple years ago where it was about a 25-year-old home. It was very well maintained, but maybe had some colors that weren't as up to date on in the terms of paint, and some basically some decorating items. So we encourage the homeowners to get rid of the dated looking furniture, put a fresh coat of paint on the walls, sand and refinish the hardwood floors, and do some updates in the master bathroom and the deck. They spent about 150,000 on the home, which is a lot of money. I understand that, but this was a high-end luxury home. That home ended up going on the market for $1 million more than what we initially would have put it on the market for, and it sold quickly and for full price. And so, you know, we've done this a long time. We know what, you know, is going to work and what's not going to work. And
yeah, and it's so important that sometimes it's all about timing in real estate, you know. So sometimes you have to like go to your professionals and they say, you know what, if I was you, this is what I would do. If you're willing, you know, if you're not, you know, if you're willing to wait and just do fresh paint, you know, fresh carpet, you know, refinish the hardwood floors, just do that and make it a fresh look. Because sometimes you're competing with a lot of new construction nowadays, right? Because in our area, they are building a lot of new construction. So you're going to find new construction at every price point. So you want to also, you're competing with them. So you actually want to be able to, you know, sell your house and be happy and move on to the next chapter of your life from this situation.
Right. And I have to tell you, I honestly believe that if something in reality costs $1,000 for whatever that repair is, a buyer comes in, they're already emptying their pockets to go to the closing table to purchase this home and put down as much as they can. They really want things to be turnkey. They want things to be move-in ready. And they see something that maybe costs $1,000 and they actually in their mind think it's going to cost them $5,000 or $10,000. So a lot of times it's really to the seller's benefit to go ahead and make those changes, repairs, updates, and, you know, have the home show at its best possible level, because it really does pay off.
Yeah. So I agree 100% on that. So let's talk about some unique, you know, some unique features of a house. Like, how does that take into effect sometimes with pricing a home?
Well, location is the first thing I would say with that. You know, if you back up to a gas station, even though you've got the best home in the world, it may not sell as quickly as something that's in a, you know, a lesser home in a gorgeous gated community, for instance. The view out the back can be a big impact. Do you have a house behind you, or do you have a premium lot with a water view? You know, those things can be considered unique. School district is very important to people as well. People all want their children to have the best possible educations, and, you know, school districts can be key to their future. So, you know, we also look at custom upgrades. Are there custom closets in all the closets? Are there plantation shutters on the windows as opposed to just, you know, inexpensive mini blinds? Like I said, custom closets. Is there wire in a lot of these closets?
Oh, those wire closets are horrible.
Especially in a pantry, because everything falls through the shelves.
Oh my goodness. So, you know, I mean, I know that those are just little touches, but believe it or not, it makes a house look like feel more luxurious, and at any price point, it makes it feel more exclusive. So people do like that custom closets.
Yeah, I mean, these are all very nice features. You just have to make sure that when you're doing your upgrades, you're not over improving your home for the neighborhood, because, you know, at a certain point, you're not going to get the return on the investment, and certain investments are going to give you, you know, closer to 100% return as opposed to other investments, such as kitchens and baths, as you've probably heard before, are your best returns on investment in a home.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great information. So, I mean, we've always dealt with our clients, and they're like, should we do this? Should we do that? And I'm like, you know what? You have to live in it. When you're going to sell it, you know, you have to, you know, some people feel like they have to get every penny back of what they, you know, spent on something, but not everybody's going to like certain features of a home.
Right.
You know, some people don't want a pool in their backyard, you know what I mean? Which is, I think that's a little crazy, but you know, whatever, you know, some people don't want that spa in their backyard, or they don't, you know, they don't want that. And it's interesting how, you know, you've got clients who come in and they go, I don't want to look at any houses with a pool. And I was like, okay,
well,
you know,
that's an easy thing for us to filter out when we do a search for a buyer. But what I think is more detrimental are when somebody makes a home too specific to their particular taste, you know, and maybe, you know, mirrors an entire wall or paints an entire room black, you know, walls, ceiling, everything else. You know, we've had people that have had home theaters and they paint the home theaters, you know, purple. And at one point, maybe that was really cool, but it's not anymore. Right. So I think you really have to be careful as to how specific you make your home if you're planning on selling it.
Yeah. And those neutral colors are the best. So sometimes, and actually the least expensive to do something to your house to get more value is just, you know, make it boring, right? Sometimes boring is good, right? Boring is good sometimes. Not the bright orange and pink. And, you know, quick story, when I was a kid, you know, when your parents said to you, hey, what color do you want your room? And I go, hot pink. And I had hot pink carpet. I'm not kidding. So I remember.
Was it shag?
You know, no, it wasn't shag, but it was a hot pink carpet. And my walls were hot pink and everything was hot pink. And I know that, I mean, when they sold that house, that carpet was ripped up as soon as I was like, I don't want a hot pink anymore. But when you're 5 years old, you want hot pink, right? So I remember, you know, my parents are like, we moved into a new house. I was 5 years old, and it was like, what color do you want? Hot pink. And I like, my whole room was hot pink. And then as I got into, like, I guess it was middle school and high school, I'm like, I don't want that anymore. So we had to like rip the carpet up and stuff. But it was funny how those days everybody had like different color carpeting instead of like the neutral carpeting. So anyway, that wouldn't fly right now.
Right.
All right, so we got a little off target, but it's you know, good to know that you know, nobody wants hot pink carpet or, you know, purple carpet or red carpet in their house.
I think it comes down to, you have to put yourself in, as if you're the buyer, even though you're selling your home, you have to put yourself in the buyer's shoes. You need to look at it from the buyer's perspective. If you had never stepped foot in the front door of this house before, what would your expectations be? What would you like to see? And, you know, you're selling your home. I know you have to live in it yet until it goes to the closing table. But at this point, you're putting it on the market. You're opening it up to all the buyers that are out there that are interested in the home of your type and your location. And you need to consider what they would be willing to pay for that property the way it's presented. So,
yeah. And then what I would say about buyers now is that so many people are watching HGTV, right? And they're seeing like Slick and that kind of stuff. And what you're seeing is a lot of people that are moving have like lived in the house for 20 years, right? Or 15 to 20 years. And that's what was trendy 15, 20 years ago. They have to look at what the trends are right now and kind of adjust a little bit. So, you know, like you said, with furniture, we all don't live and show our houses in the same way, all of us, right? So we just kind of have to look at what's trending and be boring. I mean, that's the best way. Be boring. I know that that's hard to say, but just be boring. Be boring colors on the wall, just like, you know, slick and clean color walls. It's amazing what a difference that would do in a home.
Right.
And new carpet, new paint, new flooring. You know, what's trending now is nobody wants hardwoods anymore. They want the luxury vinyl. And I don't know, I'm still a hardwood girl. I still like hardwood floors. I don't know, but that's what's trending now. So that's what people are doing, you know, different things like that. And also look into what's trending in the kitchen. Because remember, kitchen and master bedrooms and family rooms, those are like the most important rooms in the house that you're using. So you kind of want at least those rooms to look at least in the 2020, 20s, not the
Right.
not
Right.
the 2000s or the 1990s, So that's kind of there with the buyer's perspective. So buyer
Right.
comes in.
And just another point here too is if you're a real estate investor and you have a property or you're trying to lease it out, you need to do the same thing. Even though you're trying to lease it to a renter, they will still come in and evaluate your home as, your rental property as if they're buying it. And we know they're not, but they can get very picky at times on what they will, accept and what they won't. And dirty carpet is just not going to fly with anybody.
Right. And needless to say, I was showing a rental property of one of our investors to someone, and they're like, are they going to do something with these floors? And I said, oh yes, absolutely. That was something that was, we knew that needed to be changed after these renters move out, so, you have to rental, investors, they have to be in the trends too. And, they can't just put lipstick on a pig and have it looking, because people, if you're demanding more money for rents, then you should, have a house that's that price point, because rentals have gone up a lot here. And I think it's important to also do that as an investor. Good point there, Sue.
Right.
About that from a buyer's perspective and pricing.
And we do get a lot of feedback when we have either, buyers go through a home or even renters go through an investment property that we're leasing for somebody. And we do communicate that back to the sellers. And I think it's important that the sellers listen. And if they keep getting the same feedback, they need to take that into consideration, that maybe that's something they need to take care of, whether it's the carpet or, the floors or paint or something like that. And getting back to paint is the least expensive thing that you can put into a home and can make the biggest impact as far as just making it look fresh and appealing.
Yeah. So just looking pricing from a buyer's perspective, and then you get feedback and people will say, oh, the house is priced too high. Well, why? Why do they think that? Because honestly, we can interpret the market, but we're not the buyers buying that property, right?
Right.
So the buyers that are buying that property are the ones that are going to give that feedback, whether the house is listed too high or just right. And that's why when we do have feedback from our showings, they do have a question in there. Is the house priced well? What would you price the house at? So that we have a perspective too as well. Because like we're adjusting all the time. Every week we're adjusting to make sure that we're still on target with that price.
Right. And we don't just adjust for what the buyers are telling us, but we also adjust for the seller's timeline, for the seller's goals and what the seller's needs are. And sometimes, to get a property sold, it, does need a price drop sometimes. And, that's why we try to price them appropriately right from the start.
Yeah, so that they sell quickly, because if your timeline is I have to be out of here and as quick as possible, then we might have to put it a little under the average so that we get those people to purchase that property.
Right. And it depends upon the market conditions too, because we've had some properties that, we've priced, rate, where we think it should be priced. But if the market is actually, inventories are low, and we get a lot of showings immediately on that property because buyers are out there, but there's not much for them to look at, those homes will actually sell for asking price or over asking price in a very short period of time. So it's not that we underpriced it. It's relative to the market conditions and what the inventory is at the moment that also determines the price that it ends up selling for.
I also, going back to buyers, I think that buyers are a lot more educated now, and they don't want to overpay for a house too. So that they're also doing their homework, and their agents doing their homework to see what the price is. You know what I mean? Just like, because people are not wanting to go over in certain parts of the country. Yes, there's always overage and things like that. But I think sometimes if there's a bunch of inventory, if there are some homes on the market, they might, not want to pay, You know, they're like,
Mhm.
we'll only pay to here, you know, this price. They're not going to go over, you know,
Right.
$100,000 that people think that, you know, that's going to happen.
Right.
So
Right.
putting the expectations about pricing is just really, really important there.
Right. Totally agree.
Yes.
So,
So then, you know, we're talking to the seller, we're giving the seller information, and, you know, we're just adjusting as we have to. You know, no one's perfect in this world. We're going to give the best figure that we say for a price, but there could be, you know, what if, you know, something happens in the economy, or, you know, and things just start going down in price, or something happens that, you know, it goes up. So there's, you know, we can't control everything in the market. All we can do is analyze the market and show the data. And I think that's
right.
important, to show the data of, this is what happened last month, this is what's happening now. I
Right.
will say, and Sue will agree with me, that every 4 years when we have an election year, the market's a
Mhm.
little funky. And it's
Right.
just, we don't know sometimes. Sometimes we just put our hands up, you know, in 2020 and 21 and 22. Sometimes we would just be like, oh, what do you want to price it at? Okay, let's price it there. You know, because things were, you know, in multiple offers and flying off the market. What we do see every 4 years is that people are just, they're not making decisions. They're just waiting. They're waiting to see what happens with the election. We don't get into politics here, so don't worry about that. All I'm saying is, when there's an election, we don't talk politics, but when there's an election year, things are a little funky in the real estate market. So we
Right.
are seeing that this year a little bit. So just to take that into effect, that people are just not pulling the plug, or they're waiting to see what happens with the economy, with the new, with elections, new elections, and, you know, what's going on with interest rates. You know, that always affects,
Right.
and the stock market. So all those things kind of go into effect. But we will just leave it at that, that it's a little interesting and challenging in every 4 years.
Right. I just want to step back to something that you touched on earlier, and that is when you talked about how buyers are much more educated than they used to be. You have to realize that every seller needs to realize that every buyer who has, you know, is making an appointment to come see your home has already viewed it maybe 3 or 4 times or more online and looked at all the photos. And this is where I think it's important for sellers to also view the photos of their comps of the homes near them, you know, and they can do that through Zillow. It's a very easy thing for them to do, or we can provide them with those listings so that they can look through the pictures. Because I think if you have an understanding of what your comparative homes look like on the inside as well, it will help you understand why your home should be priced the way it is.
And going back to that, Sue, let me just say, I had a client, and we went on a field trip, quote unquote field trip,
Mm-hmm.
that we went to go see their competition, that things that were priced in their same area, so that they can understand that this is like, because pictures sometimes, oh my God, they look amazing, because photographers are amazing. They can do, AI right now can make photos look like incredible, right? So that gets the people in there. So sometimes we have to take a little field trip to the house, right? Because
Right.
the photos don't sometimes show that the house needs work outside, and it needs some power washing and things like that. So we'll take one of our buyers on a field trip, and we'll go see the comparable properties in their, you know, in their, and sometimes we do it before we list it too, just if
Right.
they're not understanding our price. So we'll
Right.
say, okay, let's go visit this house, take a look at it, and what would you list this house for if you were, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to list. So it's sometimes it's eye-opening. Like I said, there's so much more information online these days, that people are gathering their information from their mother, brother, sister, and the internet. So, you know, instead of talking to someone professional in the real estate market that works and breathes the real estate market. So I think it's just another tactic to help you price that house correctly.
Right. I've got a great field trip field trip story to share with
Okay,
you.
we're going on field trips today, all over the Atlanta area. So what are we doing?
So we had a comparable house, and the photos were beautiful. The view out the back was beautiful. So we thought, well, let's go see this house. So I get to the house. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac, which is very attractive, except I get to the end of the cul-de-sac and there are about 5 driveways that are going straight up the side of this hill, almost a mountain.
Oh my goodness.
And you couldn't even see the house from the street. And I just can't even imagine every Wednesday bringing my trash can down that driveway.
Trash can.
Like, I would have just like, fallen down the driveway every single week I brought my trash can out. But this is the type of thing that just was not in the photos at all.
Yeah,
there was no indication that house was
amazing things. And remember, people coming from other parts of the country, they'll go, well, we want a flat backyard. Well, good luck in Georgia, right? There's a lot of hills here. We're not in Florida where everything's so flat, like you can ride your bike. Here, you're going to get tired riding your bike up and down the hills through the neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. So there are areas that are flat, flatter, but you are going to have some hills. So take that into consideration too, that yes, the picture looks amazing online because they're taking a picture not of up on a hill. And I will tell you that I actually live up on a hill, but it's not steep. It's easy to get those garbage cans down and up, and Sue knows where I live, but I love it because we have amazing sunsets that we can see. We're a little higher and not much, and then we have tiers of flowers and everything else. So it kind of looks nice the way our yard is, but we are on like a little bit of a hill, and then we have some flat area too as well. So definitely anticipate that if you're moving to the North Atlanta area, that there are going to be some challenges with a yard, and you just have to see what fits your criteria the best.
But coming from the Northeast, Mary Ellen, I can tell you the one thing that I truly appreciate here in Georgia is with the basements. Yes. Up in the Philadelphia area, you had a basement and you had these little tiny windows that were like 10 inches tall and 2 feet wide. And that was considered a basement window. And it generally sat in a well out on the outside of the house. Here in Georgia, if you have a basement, it has to have egress. So it has to have a door out of it, which generally means you're probably sitting on a hill. So if you want a flat lot, you probably aren't going to get a basement here in Georgia. But they're much safer, I think, because they do have egress out of them, as opposed to those basements that were really buried underground up in the Philadelphia area.
Actually, Sue, you know that you're in the South. They're not called basements. They're called terrace levels.
They're called terrace
they're
levels,
called
right.
quote unquote terrace levels. So that is also going to be in consideration of pricing your house, is having a basement, terrace level, whatever you want to call it. And if it has a lot of light, people love that. So that can make a difference. You could have the same exact floor plan in the neighborhood, and the way that it's sitting, their terrace level has all these windows and it's gorgeous. And then you can have one that doesn't look as much sunshine in it. And that can make a difference in price too, as well.
Right. And when we do pull comps, we generally look at slab homes to slab homes, basement homes to basement homes, and we also consider whether those basements are finished or not. So we do try to look apples to apples, and if we have to make adjustments, then we will.
Oh, and a good adjustment that people say, well, I have 7 bedrooms and da-da. Well, what is a bedroom in Georgia? A bedroom has to have a door, a closet, and a window. So right. A lot of people in their basement, they won't have windows, and they'll say, well, that's a bedroom, and they'll make it, all staged as a bedroom. We cannot include that as a bedroom. So that's right. Another thing that's going to bring value to your property. If you do have a terrace level basement and you put 1 or 2 bedrooms in there, you have to make sure that it has a window, a door, and a closet. And it could be a teeny bitty closet to be considered a bedroom. But, people like to say, well, I have, this many bedrooms, because they just create bedrooms within their basement.
Right. And we have one seller right now that's in a subdivision where the average home size is probably 4 to 5 bedrooms, but they finish their terrace level and put quote unquote 3 bedrooms down there. Well, first of all, they're not all legal bedrooms. And second of all, we can't, necessarily comp, a 7 bedroom home against a 4 bedroom home. So we do have to look at these spaces, make sure they're legal and that they are heated and air conditioned. I had one home one time that I got in and it was a finished basement, nice home in Milton, but actually they had never run the HVAC when they finished the basement.
Oh no.
So, yes, not all basements are created equal. Some are finished very nicely and some of them are very DIY-ish. And, I compared 2 luxury properties the other year, and the one had more square footage upstairs, but the smaller home actually had the nicer basement. Finished terrace level. And so, everything has to be taken into consideration. And if something was not finished to the same quality level as the upper floors of the home, that's a detriment. If you have a terrace level that's got the same level of and quality of finishes as the upper levels, that's taken into consideration.
Yes, and having also, believe it or not, having so many AC units is very important. Most people will have one AC unit per floor. So if you just have to make sure that your terrace level basement is air conditioned, especially here in Georgia when it's so hot and humid. You can't just put a dehumidifier down there and Lord only knows what can happen down there. So mold, and we don't want that. So anyway, so that's just another thing about pricing is making sure that you have, those AC units. Also, whether you have a tankless water heater, a regular water heater, how many gallons, all that stuff does go into effect in pricing as well, too.
Right. Because buyers are smart and the sellers aren't going to pull one over on the buyers.
No, definitely not. So, I think all these factors go into pricing. Is there anything else we want to touch on today, Sue, about pricing your home?
I think what we like to do at least every week, usually on Mondays, is we like to communicate back to our sellers, let them know what has happened over the last week in terms of showings, what happened over the weekend, and also what of their comparable homes have gone under contract or maybe took a price reduction, or what new homes have come on the market that might have an impact and become a competitor to their listing. And we always have to adjust our marketing, we have to adjust our pricing, we have to adjust our approach so that we make sure we're always getting the greatest potential of buyers going through the home.
Yeah, and I think that was just, you nailed it when you said your approach on pricing, because there's so many different factors that go into pricing and we have to take different approaches for different things. So, you just nailed it when you said that. So anyway, any other things to add on this great topic of pricing?
No, I think, it's important that sellers, be flexible, they don't get stuck on the price, and that, we work together and, ultimately achieve the best result for them in a very smooth process and get them to the closing table.
Well, great. Thanks, Sue. Thanks for this great talk that we had today. The Real Estate Ladies of North Atlanta, Mary Ellen Vanaken, Susan Jennings, talking about pricing. Come check out some of our other podcasts, and we really enjoyed you today. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye.